behavior you want. And this is one of the huge things you can do for it. Policies and procedures. What am I getting at here? Well, this is somewhat of a generic catch-all, to be honest with you, that there's certain things that policy and procedure-wise that I could change. All right? So policies and procedures, all leading to behavior change. This is what I want. So what are some examples? It could be attire. Dress code, if you want to say. That could set an attitude. It can set an atmosphere. Teresa talked about that with Southwest Airlines in our last class period about the attitudes that tend to, an atmosphere that can be created just from a simple attire. Has anyone here been to Hawaii for vacation? Teresa? Anybody else? Okay, Teresa. So, Brent? Now, were you on duty or actual vacation?
Yeah, duty. I mean,
but you were there.
I was there.
All right, so I want to hear from Brent and Teresa about Hawaii. Attire. Go.
What about it?
What about it? What do you notice as soon as you get on the island?
Flip-flops, shorts.
Yes, keep going, Brent. Flip-flops.
Tank tops, swimsuits, just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah?
Very relaxed.
Very relaxed. I know somehow when you get on the island, wearing a big, loud, flowery shirt with always flowers and plants on it is apparently okay because everyone's wearing it. At least in the 1992 when I was there. Everyone's wearing the shorts and the flip-flops and the hat and the glasses, and they got some flowers on it. Ugliest thing you've ever seen, but everybody's wearing it. Relax, man. This is an attitude. So attire, I know to one place that you can sit at a, if you think about, what is formal dress, what kind of attire, what kind of attitude does that put in place, and so that's just one example. So I could change the attire. You could have, policies and procedures on what's the policy and procedure on lunch break? Can you go at any time? Is it a certain time? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm working with one company now that from 1 to 2, basically no one's there. I would try to find somebody. They're all at lunch. What? Wait a minute. Everybody kind of just works through 1 o'clock and then goes to eat. Or is it acceptable? I know one place I'm doing some work with, if you are engineering staff or manager level, no one's watching you when you leave or when you come back. When I go to lunch with the plant manager, it could be a 2-hour deal. No one's keeping tabs on you. But if you're hourly, they're watching you. Clock in and clock out. And you got a 3-minute window, inside or out, to get in that clock. Okay, well, it could be around smoke breaks. What's your policy on that? How's that going to operate? Are you going to allow smoking on the facility? If you are, what are the rules? And I know these are simple things, but this is rules that are set up for how the place is going to run, and it can also help shape the culture of how things operate there. Okay? Could be arrival time or depart time. Okay? I worked with one place at the University of Texas at Arlington. Everyone got there about 8:30, but pretty much everyone left at 5. No one ever worked an 8-hour day. That was great. Take a long lunch. That's how it was. Okay? So there are, things that you can set in place policy-wise that will help create attitudes and behaviors that you're shooting for. And I've only identified 4 major human resource areas. Can you think of anything I've left out? Oh, we got one more, right? We got one more. I did leave hiring. Really, this kind of goes hiring and firing, but we're just going to stick with the hiring. So most of the companies I've worked with change how they hire people. A couple of things will happen. Usually, they increase the requirements to get an interview. Or they will change the process of interviews and resume submission and all that. Meaning that a lot of times they get people involved in interviews that may not have been involved in the past. Maybe they do some sort of team interviews, or so we're going to look at increased requirements. Maybe you have more experience or higher education. A lot of times they'll also increase the testing. It could be a drug test. It could be a background check. There's a lot of times it's never going backwards. It's always we're going to do a drug test. We're going to do a background check. We're going to check references. We're actually going to call them. We're going to look up transcripts from the university that you went to. You said you're a mechanical engineer. Let's see the transcript. So all of this kind of goes into, we want to make sure that we have the right people, and I'm going to use our good to great, on bus. Bus is a kind of a funny term to say on board the company, part of our department, or whatever. We want the right people in our organization to propel us to the vision. Whatever our vision is, our goals are. And that's a fairly safe answer. And any of the questions I'm going to give you related to this sort of thing. You're trying to achieve the vision. You're trying to reach the goals of the plan or whatever it is. You think back to sports. Most all time they bring in a new coach, they're going to change the people on the team. So that's part of what hiring is all about, is making sure we get the right people on the bus. And you certainly don't want to make a mistake in hiring if at all possible. So now that we've gone through all these, are there some of your team responses that I have overlooked? Maybe there's something your team came up with in one of these areas that I have not touched on. Anybody got something?
On hiring, I can say that as far as hiring goes, it's also a process of when you're screening for personality traits. When you decide, like, let's say you decide you're going to go for a more, let's say you want to shift more to a safety-focused company. Then when you're interviewing people, you may train your interviewers to ask more safety-oriented questions, to gear more questions to safety. You also, during your interview process, you set the tone for what kind of a company you are. That's the your person's first contact. That, I think you call it it's called the moment of truth. One of those moments of truth.
Right.
And so that's one of their first contacts. And if you start focusing on that when their phone's screened, every of those beginning contacts they have with your company, you start setting the tone of what kind of company you have, and that sets their expectations, so that they may screen themselves out if they decide that you're a very high intense company, because you start creating a high intensity interviewing process. Then they may say, you know what, I don't want to be at a company that's this intense. So you get some opportunity to have people self-screen. But it also, if they walk in the door already knowing that all the people I saw were wearing suits and ties, or all the people I wore had their TWIC cards visible, whatever, that tone that you set, they come in the door knowing that, well, that's how everybody else was when I interviewed. That's the kind of person I need to be coming in the door. And it's a lot easier to get people who may not have even been that way before, but you want to shepherd them in a particular direction. If you do it from the day one when they walk in the door, they already know I need to behave a certain way, rather than trying to adjust a behavior. They came in the door because they saw, when they came in and interviewed, they saw people wearing flip-flops when they came in and interviewed. And so they show up their first day wearing flip-flops, and you say, oh no, we don't wear flip-flops here. Well, I saw people wearing flip-flops my first day. So it really sets the tone for what you're comfortable with.
Well, what Teresa's talking about, I actually had a conversation with a student today about a co-op interview. And she was contrasting a local company that is owned by an international firm that had one tone and one attitude, and then a company that was owned by that was owned locally, or should I say domestically owned, and two very, very different tones in the interview. And she came quite clear where she wanted to go based on that interview. Is so different in the interview. I know my mother had gone through, and I think she tried to work for Geico. And the process for the interviews, the number of interviews, how the interviews were conducted, to me were way over the top for the type of job she was applying for. Yeah, you would have thought it would have been some corporate executive position, given the number of interviews she went to and the information she had to provide and all the things she went through. I thought, man, if this is how they operate, do you really want to work there? Probably not. You know. Okay, what else? Some of your teams have come up with things last week about one of these four areas that I may not have talked about.
I have something on hiring practices. The company may want to change, depends on how excessively they're trying to change their structure within, but whereas promoting from within or bringing in new personnel from totally outside.
Yeah, Joey's right on. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic there. And as a manager, you're going to face this. Do I hire from within or do I hire from outside the organization? You could argue benefits for both. If I hire from within, I usually know what I'm getting. But I'm also promoting the culture that I have. Do I take a risk on hiring someone from the outside, and then maybe I want the new opinions, I want the new ideas, and so you hire from the outside? It depends on the situation. I could see arguments for both. And there's some organizations, there's one across the street from us that really likes to hire from within and hire you in as a young person, you spend your career there, versus trying to hire in at mid-career. It's not easy to do at that place. So yeah, absolutely. What else? Anybody got anything else from? Yes, Salih, what do you have?
I get 2 points. One about the media and reward, which is
okay.
We talked about personal satisfaction and competition between employees in the same organization, about the incentive or the race or promotions if there is a slot.
There's certainly one thing. I'm not sure if this is what you're saying, Salih, but we are just addressed. I was in a meeting Friday with a company. We're talking about this very idea. Is there a ladder for people to go up on, or are they basically stuck in this spot? You know, can we create a change in the organizational structure to create a couple of different little steps that people could go up to? You know, you're at this level technician. Can you go to a senior level technician? Okay, well, that gives them a little bit of a step they can go to, a little bit of bump in pay, and then you could have, engineer number 1 or 2 or 3, and give people a chance to get some promotion, a title change within their area. You may not become manager, but you're going to get some promotions within your area, within your discipline. So the idea that you've got these steps for people to take, a career path. If people don't see a future in the organization, they're going to leave. If they see that I've got to make the jump from being at this position all the way to here, and there's not many people that have these spots, then it's going to be tough. If it's a family-owned business and your last name is not the same name as the family, you're not becoming the leader. So, what else? Well, I like to think about these things as there are 4 major areas where you can implement change in the rules. Now, let's argue if you're in a large organization, you don't have much influence on how people are hired. You may not have influence on the policies and procedures. You have to find within those 4 things, what can I change? And so I think in the slides I talked about in the policies and procedures, Maybe we're going to eliminate reserved parking and people can park anywhere. And that will remove some of the status symbols that are out there. And so those are some different things you can do. So when it says this aligned administrative systems, it's talking about, anything within human resources that I can do to help